Well, if you were hoping to watch the high-profile trials of accused CEO assassin Luigi Mangione play out in court, there is a chance those showdowns might be gone before they ever start. Why do I say that? So yesterday, Mangione appeared in court for the final pretrial hearing in his state murder case, where the judge confirmed that jury selection would begin September 8th and that those jurors would be anonymous. Just hours after that state hearing wrapped up, both federal prosecutors and Mangione's defense team filed this one-page letter asking the judge in his federal case for a conference, which, after speaking with the judge's office, was set for this Friday, August 14th, and now 11 a.m. Look, most any movement in Mangione's case is going to be big news, and since that letter was filed, there are rumors that have been flying about potential plea negotiations between his team and federal prosecutors. And let's not forget, he faces stalking resulting in death charges that could land him behind bars for the rest of his life. But this isn't the first time there's been talk of a plea. In June, there were rumors of a possible deal in the works, but Mangione's attorney, Karen Friedman-Agnifilo, was quick to shoot them down. So now Mangione has denied all the charges against him, but if he ends up taking a plea in the federal case, that could seriously affect his state case, meaning those charges may be dropped because of potential double jeopardy concerns. So with that state trial just weeks away, a plea deal may be the smart play. Joining me now for a closer look is LA Magazine reporter Lauren Conlin. Always love seeing Lauren. So Lauren, what exactly are you hearing about the chances of a potential plea deal on Friday?
I'm hearing a lot right now, Jesse. I mean, it was very, very shocking to see this joint motion because we were not due in federal court for Luigi Mangione until the winter, until, 2027. So many of us were suspecting a possible plea. And I say that because after just doing some digging, after going back through some of the filings, Judge Caro, who is the judge presiding over the state trial, he initially shot down any type of double jeopardy claim when it first arose months ago. He basically just said, it's just too premature, and under New York law, they just provide much larger protections over the federal Constitution. But now that a potential plea could be reached in federal court, there's a real possibility the defense could go back to the state court and argue now that they are facing double jeopardy. And I don't think it's going to be, as easy as saying, okay, we're not going to do this trial. I think there's going to be some major arguments from both sides because double jeopardy in New York is not black and white.
Let's just amplify that. It would make sense for him, right, to plead guilty to the federal charge of stalking. And we'll talk about what the sentence could be. But if you were to plead guilty and admit something there, you have to wonder, he knows the state case is right around the corner. Yeah. So what would be the arguments against double jeopardy? Even though he's facing, technically different charges, it's the same evidence, it's the same event. What would be the arguments that it's not double jeopardy? It's two different sets of charges?
Well, it's kind of what you just said. It is different charges, of course, and they are it's separate sovereigns, and yes, that all makes sense. But we're talking about the same victim and essentially the same crime. But Jesse, like I said, I don't think it's going to be super easy. I mean, I wrote a piece today actually citing Paul Manafort's case, where he actually was able to get his New York State case thrown out in terms of the mortgage fraud and other charges because he had already been convicted federally. So it does happen and it can work. But I was also kind of looking up just some sentences that other
let's talk about that for a second, because TMZ is reporting that this could be an open plea deal, right? Meaning that the sentence wouldn't be part of the negotiation, that Mangione's sentence at the federal level will be argued in front of the judge. Have you heard anything about that? And what could be the range of sentence here? Because I mentioned, I think the maximum is life in prison.
Yes, the maximum is life in prison, but a judge clearly can create a range of what they feel is necessary. And there's a lot of things that go into that in determining, the sentencing. But I've heard a lot of things, Jesse. The open plea, I think that I've not heard conclusively from any of my sources that that's what they're talking about. I think that's slightly far-fetched, but again, I could be wrong. But the cases that I've looked up here, I saw a similar case where the defendant got 30 years. I saw another case where they got 35 years. Another case got 43 years. And then I saw a slew of cases that got life. So I think it's all going to depend again on what this plea agreement is and what he has to plead guilty to.
Because the murder charge that he's facing at the state level, which I will tell you, in my legal opinion, I think the evidence is quite strong. He could get 25 years to life in prison if I'm right about that on the state murder charge in New York. So he might have an incentive here to plead guilty and maybe get a sentence that's lower than life in prison. I mean, if you think about it, this could potentially be a win for him. His attorney's already got other charges dropped. This could be a potential win for Luigi Mangione in a way.
I mean, I've said that several times, that his lawyers have done an incredible job. If you think about it, they got the 2 counts that made him eligible for the death penalty federally off the table. They got first-degree murder off the table in his state case. So now he's only facing second-degree murder, you know, as an act of terrorism. That was part of the first degree. It's pretty incredible what they've been able to do. But, you know, I just go back to, you know, when they were exploring this EED defense, which is the extreme emotional disturbance defense, and that was specifically for his state case. Look, if a jury bought into that, they could essentially only determine that he was responsible for manslaughter. And I think that the minimum in New York is like 5 years or something like that, something crazy.
They drop that quick. They drop that quick. And look, all I will say is we will see what happens Friday. We can't forget about Brian Thompson's family throughout all of this and how they're navigating this, and what does justice mean for them at the end of the day. Even though, you know, Mangione's innocent unless proven guilty. Just a lot of things to be thinking about. Lauren Conlin, as always, excellent reporting. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.